Hi everyone. My name is Sreemoyi Sanyal and I work at the Canadian Consulate here in San Diego. I'm the Vice Counsel and Trade Commissioner here. And just to start with, I wanted to come clean and say I'm not a cybersecurity expert per se. I manage the aerospace and defense portfolio at the consulate, and because of my work in that, I've been privileged to work with a few really innovative Canadian cybersecurity companies, which is how I got involved with this initiative, and I'm here on the international panel today. So I'm going to be presenting to you a really high-level overview of the Government of Canada's cybersecurity strategy, talk a little bit about the Canadian private sector in cybersecurity, and then talk about some of the companies that I've actually worked with. So since we went through the introductions already, I just wanted to say, for those of you that don't know, as a Canadian Trade Commissioner, I represent Canadian trade and business interests in San Diego, and I work towards facilitating trade, investment, and scientific collaborations between Canada and San Diego. So as part of that, one of the areas that I specialize in is defense and security, which is how I ended up working with a few cybersecurity companies over the last year and a half, and got involved with Darren, ESET, and this Securing Your eCity initiative. So in my presentation today, I'm going to give a high-level overview of the Government of Canada cybersecurity strategy, talk a little bit about U.S.-Canada joint cybersecurity activities that are ongoing, and finally I'll tell you a little bit about the trends in Canadian private sector in the cybersecurity area and some of the companies that I've actually worked with in San Diego. So the Government of Canada has identified three main national priorities: national security, economic prosperity, and quality of life. We have seen that Canada's digital infrastructure has increasingly become essential in maintaining our three national priorities, but it's our very dependence on the cyberspace and technology that makes us vulnerable to those who exploit cyberspace weaknesses for political, criminal, terrorist, and other activities. And increasingly, we've seen that the nature of the information that's being stored online is becoming more valuable and more sensitive. So for example, right now, there's 130 Canadian government services that citizens can access online. And some of the information that's going in there is highly sensitive and in some cases really critical. And if these systems fail, sometimes in some cases, there's no going back to manual systems anymore. So as the Government of Canada, it's our responsibility towards our citizens to protect and maintain these infrastructure and these systems. So all that to say that, cybersecurity has become one of our priorities in the Government of Canada. So
stick me with this. Thanks.
You can do anything, Mitch. You're a Renaissance man.
You're better at it than I am. So these are some of the cyber threats that our government has identified. We've seen that there's been a transformation in the nature of these threats over the last 10 to 15 years. So it's not just hackers anymore. It's foreign governments looking for intelligence. It's terrorists, criminals looking at identity theft, money theft, IP theft, and just plain hackers. One statistic that I found, which was really wow to me, was that in the last 2 years, 86% of large Canadian commercial corporations reported having been hit by cyber attacks. Just goes to show that, that's such an incredible statistic that it's, for our economic prosperity, this is something that we have to take really seriously. So in 2010, this year, the Canadian government finally came out with its official cybersecurity strategy and has committed $90 million over the next 5 years to develop and implement our cybersecurity strategy. So just to back it up a little bit, even though the strategy was announced in 2010, some of these activities that I'm going to talk about and initiatives have been ongoing for a long time because cyber threats have been prevalent for the last 10, 15 years, ever since we've had the internet. So our strategy is based on capability, being able to respond quickly and effectively to rapidly evolving technologies and threats, credibility both domestically with our citizens and internationally because our international allies are investing quite heavily in cybersecurity and are looking to Canada to do the same. And public awareness. The Canadian government believes very strongly that it has to enable its citizens to be more cyber aware and to protect themselves and their information online. So our strategy has been informed by consultations with key public sector and private sector stakeholders, a number of core Canadian departments and agencies, as well as our international allies that have come up with comprehensive cybersecurity plans such as the US, UK, and Australia. And we've also established a National Cybersecurity Directorate and changed policies on Canadian government information storage policy, so securing our information online. And
It's good to feel useful.
we've implemented changes to the Criminal Code of Canada, which criminalizes identity theft, introduced legislation to address spam, and to ensure that our law enforcement and national security agencies have the technology and tools necessary to fight cybercrime. We've come up with a public national awareness campaign, and as well we have plans for establishing a 24-hour-a-day cyber attack combat center. Next, please. So here are some of the core Canadian government departments that are working towards developing this cybersecurity strategy. Public Safety Canada is the lead department, so it's coordinating all the activities and developing and implementing the plan. We have Industry Canada that's been working with the International Telecommunications Union, which is a UN agency which regulates information and communication technology issues, and they've been working on global internet governance issues. As well, Industry Canada is in the process of developing a national digital economy strategy, of which cybersecurity is going to be a big part of. On the foreign affairs side, we've been looking at the human affairs aspect of cybersecurity. We've been working with the French and the Dutch government on freedom of expression issues. We've been working with NATO on cyber defense policies. As well, we've actually done some really interesting work and invested money in increasing cybersecurity in developing economies such as in Latin America and in Korea. And our Department of Justice, as I mentioned earlier, has been working on changing some of the laws and regulations to criminalize some of the cyber security threats. Next slide, please. So on the international collaboration side, our government feels quite strongly that it's really important to have collaboration, and that's the only viable option because, as we've seen, that cybersecurity knows no borders. So Canada supports international efforts to develop and implement a global cyber governance regime that will enhance our collective cybersecurity strength. Canada has also signed on the Council of Europe's Convention on Cybercrime. In terms of Canada-US activities, we've been working on sharing and examining each other's policies, strategies to come up with best practices. The US CERT, which is the Computer Emergency Readiness Team, has been collaborating with the Canadian Cyber Incident Response Center. We've been exploring working together in cases of incidents of national significance. Canada is participating in the Cyberstorm series of exercises, and also we've been coordinating our engagement in multilateral fora such as the UN, NATO, and the Council of Europe. Next slide, please. So on the private sector side, Canada has quite a vibrant cybersecurity sector made up of largely of small and medium enterprises. Our subsectors of strengths include encryption, surveillance, tracking, and sensors. Canadian universities have also played a very significant role in developing a lot of this cybersecurity technology, especially our tech triangle out in the east with the University of Waterloo. That's where one of our most well-known companies, Research in Motion, the makers of BlackBerry, came from. And one of the statistics that I found really interesting was that over the last 10 years, over $5.2 billion have been given to Canadian universities by the private industry to develop internet security technology. So obviously Canadian industries have played quite a big role in that.